Hi, I'm Ann. When I fill up my CSA box each week, I'm not just thinking about the foods my family will eat in the coming week, but also what I can preserve for later. You've probably heard of canning or freezing as methods of preserving food, but you may not have heard of lactofermentation. This happens to be a favorite of mine because it requires little time and equipment. In fact, the only thing you need is a clean mason jar. You can also preserve just a small amount of produce at a time rather than setting aside an entire day to prepare the equipment, sterilize jars, and do all the things that it would require to can a large amount of vegetables. There are some health benefits as well. When you can, you're heating your vegetables, and this destroys many of the nutrients and vitamins that would otherwise be available to you. Fermented foods are essentially raw foods. Fermented vegetables contain lots of probiotic bacteria, the same kind that makes yogurt such a popular food. So instead of buying a probiotic supplement, you can make these vegetables for a fraction of the cost. The fear factor with fermentation is that the food will spoil, but this doesn't happen because you're going to add whey, which jumpstarts the good bacteria that you want to grow, and you'll also be adding salt, which prohibits the growth of bad bacteria that causes food to spoil. So let's see how easy it is to make a jar of lacto-fermented dill pickles. Here's what you'll need: several cucumbers, a tablespoon of mustard seed, a tablespoon of fresh dill weed or 2 tablespoons of dried, a tablespoon of salt, 3 to 4 tablespoons of whey, not whey protein, filtered or unchlorinated water, and a quart mason jar. First, put the mustard seed, dill weed, and salt into the jar. I'm using an unrefined sea salt. The very best sea salt has some color in it. You'll notice the flecks of brown in the salt. This is called real salt. There are others called Celtic salt. You'll want to avoid any sea salt that is pure white. That would be a refined salt. Cut the cucumbers into spears or slices and pack them into the jar until it's full. Okay, now that your jar is full, it's time to add whey. Whey is the fluid that accumulates at the top of yogurt, so if you purchase some plain yogurt at the store, you can use a cheesecloth or a towel and strain out the liquid. The yogurt will become a cheese, sort of like a ricotta cheese consistency, and you'll have whey, which you can use in any fermented food. Add the whey. Add the filtered water. Be sure to leave about an inch of headspace, and be sure the cucumbers are covered. Screw the lid tightly onto the jar. Shake the jar until the salt is dissolved. Your pickles are done. Now you'll need to let them sit at room temperature for 2 to 3 days. You'll probably notice some bubbling. That's the lactic acid being produced by the fermentation process. The lid may start to bulge slightly. After 2 to 3 days, move the pickles to the refrigerator for a week. This slows the fermentation down. After a week is up, you can move the pickles to a cool location, such as a basement, for long-term storage. If you don't have a place that's cool enough, just leave them in the fridge. After a week in the refrigerator, you can move your pickles to a cool place in your house, such as a basement. The temperature should be about 50 to 60 degrees. If you don't have a place that is that cool, you can keep it in the refrigerator for long-term storage. Pickles are just one of many vegetables that you can ferment. Sauerkraut is another example, and salsa. We'll talk about those in a future video.